Okay. Wait, you press it or something? Okay. I'm gonna try to do that right now. Hopefully I do it right.
Once upon a time, in the twilight of young innocence, there lived a girl with stars in her eyes and creativity dancing through her veins. She painted her world in vibrant hues of imagination, crafting skits like spells, weaving laughter like magic, and aspiring models surrounded by friends who shared her enchanted performances. Her kingdom was built on dreams and promises, a sanctuary where childhood magic never needed to fade. But even then, as she danced on the edge of adolescence, shadows were beginning to gather at the corners of her realm. Like delicate threads spinning themselves into silk, invisible walls were slowly being woven around her garden of perpetual youth. In those early days, she still moved freely between her magical realm and the mortal world, not yet aware that her castle of comfort would slowly become something else entirely. The friends who shared her stage would fade like the morning mist, leaving behind echoes of laughter and creativity that would grow fainter with each passing season. Today we journey back to 2011 to 2013, when our princess still wrote her own story, before the mirror became her master, before her kingdom turned to glass, before her youth became her prison, before the pages began writing themselves in tears. Welcome back, Nuggets. This mother clucker has some thoughts. Let's ruffle some feathers and get into the video. First and foremost, I want to thank all of my, let's say, OG Nuggets. Yes, that's you. All at the time of recording, 63 of you. It is so exciting. I can't believe it. I was just here to have an outlet for myself, and I'm so glad that you guys are enjoying my content. I want to express gratitude for your patience for this video. I had to rescue a little rooster boy because this mother clucker is an actual mother clucker. So he needed a lot of my time while he was getting oriented in his new space. But I am back. I should be back on a normal recording schedule at this point, so stay tuned for more. I watched over 4 hours of Teenage Eugenia content, so you didn't have to. You are welcome. So I originally researched these years of Eugenia on the internet, intending to do a whole video per year. But when I had gone through and recorded everything and looked back at the footage, this thing was going to be over 2 hours long. Now, some of you might really dig that. Personally, I like a long deep dive. But I thought, just in case there's people that do not enjoy that as much as others, I would break them down into chapters. Now, the good news for you guys is that because everything is mostly recorded, I just need to do a little few tweaks here and there and the final editing. These will be released fairly quickly, one after the other. Let's start with chapter 1, Draw My Life, her early narrative. So we know that Eugenia has been deleting her videos here and there. This first video that I want to go through is a deleted video, but I recalled seeing it years ago in another documentary about her, and I just felt it was so telling, which is probably why she deleted it. And so I found it online after a whole bunch of digging, and I'd really like to go through that one with you.
I was born on July 27th, 1994, which makes me a Leo. My mom had me 2 weeks late because she had a very hard time giving birth, and I ended up being a C-section. Once I was cut out of my mom's stomach, I was put into a crib. I hated the crib, so my mom kept me in a car seat, which she called a bucket.
So straight off the bat, we do have a little bit of commentary around her mother's parenting style. So Eugenia was apparently not happy in her crib. Full disclosure, have not had children. I think this is probably quite a common thing, right? Babies do not necessarily like to stay in their cot. But what it is a commentary on for the mother is that rather than acclimating and doing the right thing for the child, she actually goes the shortcut route, which will be a recurring theme in this, the path of least resistance, and put her in a car seat, which, by the way, in case you didn't know, that's really, really dangerous. They actually recommend, if you're going on a long car trip, to have regular breaks to let the baby out of the car seat, because something about the way it forces the head down, it can actually cause asphyxia. So this is insanely dangerous, and rather than dealing with an unhappy child, the mother decides to go the path of least resistance and let's just make her happy, put her in a car seat.
From there, I graduated to Bratz dolls. Yasmin was my girl. At school, my teachers told my mom that I was too obsessed with Bratz dolls. They suggested I take riding lessons, but my mom bought me more Bratz dolls instead.
So I actually find a lot of parallels with my own mother around this kind of topic. There was a real kind of like us and them vibe with any other sort of authority figure. And my mother would actually get quite aggressive around these sorts of things, where the educators are trying to keep children well-rounded and make sure that they're hitting developmental milestones. And so it's their job to make observations like this. But anytime that was brought up to my mother, there would be a full scene made and so many embarrassing moments that I look back on, suggesting that maybe a child who is perhaps playing too intensely alone, getting involved with something like horse therapy would actually be really beneficial, and from a logical standpoint seems like a great idea. But the fact that her mother took that and just bought her more Bratz dolls as a response really shows once again that path of least resistance. And why I'm bringing this up so repeatedly is because when you're looking at somebody who is dealing with anxiety the way that somebody like Eugenia is dealing with it, the path of least resistance becomes almost like the security blanket in their life. I will elaborate more as we go through, but keep this path of least resistance in your mind.
I loved New York. I would miss school here and there to stay in the city. I had no problem doing that. School was never my thing.
So again, what kind of message does this show a child? Oh, you can miss school to stay in the city. It's pulling emphasis away from an education system to go have fun, in a sense. And while I agree that a little bit of that is good, but it must have been significant enough for her to bring this up in her story.
I also had a guidance counselor tell me he wants to be a father to me. So weird and creepy.
So I find this really interesting. Why is a guidance counselor stepping in? Unless it's different in America, I will leave a little bit of misunderstanding room for that. But in Australia, at least, guidance counselors step in when there's seen to be a problem in the classroom, or it's recommended that there's some sort of therapy involved. But then the fact that this has been twisted into something creepy. And again, this is an authority figure stepping in with an opinion, right? So a narrative needs to be spun in order to keep the unit that is mother and daughter intact. Does that make sense? So any authority figure from the outside coming in with an external opinion needs to have a light shone on it that undermines their role. So therefore the opinion is not taken on.
Anyways, shopping and fashion was more my style. From being in the city often, I was asked to do some modeling jobs. Cool. Maybe I'll do this for a living, I thought.
Going through this, it's surreal to me how much of a parallel Eugenia's life and my life ran. There's so many milestones that happened around the same age and in the similar sort of ways. So Eugenia did actually do some modeling. There are some shoots that she still has on her Instagram.
But I also discovered YouNow one day. I enjoy broadcasting on there so much, and I love talking to my fans. It is so much fun. From there, I started making YouTube videos as well, which I so enjoy doing and want to continue with. When I'm not online, I still go to concerts with my younger brother. He's a huge Disney fan, so we end up vacationing a lot at Disney World.
So I found this interesting that she's identified her brother as the huge Disney fan, and yet we know now at the age of 30, Eugenia is still going back there multiple times a year. I found this really interesting to outline how we're dealing with a 17 through 18 aged Eugenia, and yet we can see that over a decade later, she's still the same person. And that's really interesting to me.
My mom and I have always been very close. She is amazing.
So this is probably the most concerning part of the video, and I hope I'm okay to put this up here. To specify that it's not an inappropriate situation, to even get your mind into thinking like this, unfortunately, I understand this. So I think what's going on, like obviously if she said, my mother and I are really close, you would go, that's cool, you're like friends, you do stuff together, and your mind would not naturally go to an inappropriate form. I'm so sorry, I have to talk in euphemisms. It's hard to dance around it, so bear with me. I'm not saying that there's any sort of physical thing going on, but what we might be seeing, so she mentions really briefly in a few seconds that her father works a lot and that he's away a lot. And really in all of Eugenia's time online, we haven't seen much of the father. So what I'm suggesting there might actually be is a boundary crossed in the sense of like an emotional spouse. And potentially what she's feeling is a conflict of seeing where other children's boundaries are with their parents, but maybe she doesn't have the same boundaries with her mother. And perhaps her mother is leaning on her for emotional stability and support more than she should, and also for companionship more than she should. And the other thing that is potentially concerning as well is that we know that the brother has actually drawn featherless drawings. Do you get what I mean? Featherless of Eugenia. And he was quite young when he did that, which kind of also might insinuate, is there something that has gone on in her childhood or his childhood? And I really hope that's not the case. I hope it's my first theory. But either way, I think it's clear that we are seeing not a normal thought process for familial connection. I hope all of that made sense. It's very difficult to speak around these topics. I hope you're picking up what I'm putting down, but let's continue.
My grandma comes down and helps a lot, though. She's really cool. She reminds me of Sophia from the Golden Girls. My dad is always busy working in New York City. I graduated high school on Friday. Done. Now I'm going into modeling, making YouTube videos, and I may become a twerking instructor as well. One day, I made a video teaching people how to twerk, and after being posted on World Star Hip Hop, it went viral. Lots of hate, but that's okay. I just keep on twerking. Thank you so much to all the people who watch my videos and support me. That's my life.
So again, we hit the path of least resistance. So we know that from other videos that Eugenia has done, she has struggled with bullying at school and also not settling in well. So we know that she was taken out after her first year of high school and moved to an online class. This is something that my mother actually suggested that I do as well, because I've always been a bit of a loner and I didn't do well in school either. Very similar kind of thing to what Eugenia is describing. I am so glad, looking back on it, that I did not do online schooling at that time. I think the social structures in high school in particular are so critical to hit developmental milestones that it would have fully crippled me. And we may be seeing that this actually set Eugenia back as well, and potentially highlights the age that she is now permanently stuck at in that arrested development situation. And we're hearing a lot of talk now about YouTube and YouNow and modeling, so we're not getting any sort of commentary on what she aspires to be or any sort of further education. And of course, that's not the only route you can go. But you'd think at the point of finishing high school, it's normal to then go, okay, what's next? And the fact that we're looking at modeling and we're looking at online activity, I still feel that this is the path of least resistance. Oh, school was challenging to me, so I don't want to do that. I want to do something that I'm comfortable with. I want to do something that doesn't challenge me in an uncomfortable way. So I found this interesting clip on Eugenia talking about her modeling experience, and just have a listen to this and tell me what you think.
So I visited a couple of modeling agents. Honestly, a lot of them told me that I was too short. Eventually, I met somebody that was like a modeling agent, and honestly, things just kind of got a little weird with her. Like, it was around the same time with her that I was also starting to make like YouTube videos, and I was streaming, at the time, and stuff like that. And she was like weird about it. Like, she literally wanted me to like be like not on Google. She told me that I was like making myself look crazy, and that I had to like delete my YouTube, delete all my social media stuff if I wanted to be like a model, and that models can't be Googleable. Here's the thing, guys. Like, okay, if I'm doing a shoot for somebody, I understand that it's their vision. And obviously, like, you want to like please them. You want, it's their creative project. You don't want to like be like, oh, I don't want to do things that way. So like, this is just an example. It's like she wanted me to like go to like a party with her. And yeah, like she would just get kind of like controlling about stuff. Yeah, like she'd be like, oh, like you have to wear you have to look this way. You have to have like this sort of look. And it wasn't during like just shoots, like all the time. She wanted me to like be someone that I just felt like I wasn't. So then from there, I didn't want to like delete all my accounts, and I was kind of getting more into like making videos and streaming, and it just kind of didn't feel right to me to just kind of like leave all that. Like, I was enjoying it and just kind of wanted to keep going with it. And honestly, I'm really happy I did. This sounds like she was into trafficking. Honestly, my mom later on started having those thoughts. Like is she into something weird like that?
So if we take everything that she says at face value, I think it's a completely valid thing. If she was really told to delete her online presence, she wants to choose her online presence over modeling. That's a completely justifiable choice on her behalf. I don't have a problem with that. As a little bit of a short girl myself, I actually have been told the same thing. And when you are not meeting the height of a regular kind of catwalk model or commercial model, you do tend to start having to be forced into more niche things, which I think is probably what she's edging around here. The red flag that flies for me is the fact that her mother was brought into this saying that she thought it might be sinister motives. And I feel like here, if I could go back to the path of least resistance, like with the Bratz dolls or like with the guidance counselor, we have an external authority figure coming in with an external perspective. And so are we spinning the narrative to be in our favor? Oh no, I can't work with that woman. She's crazy. She's controlling. She put me in awkward situations. And maybe that's true, but I'm just setting up the potential for maybe it wasn't. Maybe there's more to this than meets the eye, because I think kind of it makes sense where if you're going into an industry that is solely based on the way you look, there's going to be some sort of requirement on how you present yourself in order to get booked, in order to make that agent money, right? So my gut feeling is that it wasn't about that. Maybe the online presence thing, I don't know. But I'm feeling like, once again, oh no, I've done these photo shoots. It makes me anxious. It challenges me in a way that I find uncomfortable, so I don't want to do it. So here's how I'm going to justify it to my mind and to my fear monster. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back and watch my first Eugenia video. Needs to justify it to herself and to those around her why she couldn't see it through. Because when you're dealing with that kind of anxiety in your life, you can't just say you didn't do something because it scares you. You have to come up with a story as to why. The sad thing about the people that I cover currently and will cover in the future is that they are public figures who seemingly are past the point of being able to help themselves. And we know as logical adults that we cannot help. We're just me in particular, I'm just some random chick on the other side of the world from Eugenia. I cannot change her life. What I can do, however, is put forth my perspective based on my experiences and lessons that I've learned over the years through a great deal of self-reflection and working through my past, in the hopes that maybe it will fall on somebody's ears who need to hear it. So these Women are truly cautionary tales, and as hard as that can be to hear sometimes, they are a very useful illustration for the points that I want to get across. And as illustrations, like art, people can come from all different walks of life and view this content and come away with completely different perspectives, conclusions, lessons. And that's what drew me so much to reaction content, because I myself was viewing reaction channels, and I think they're amazing. There's a lot of reaction channels out there that do an amazing job, but none of them brought to the table my perspective because they didn't have my experiences, right? And that's why I say that all perspectives are valid and valuable, and I encourage a respectful conversation in the comments for you to also bring your perspective to the table. So that concludes chapter 1 of this video series. Tell me what you think about this particular video. When she's drawing her life, I think it's very interesting, the aspects that she brings forth. And how does that resonate with you? Tell me, do you see anything from your perspective that might highlight something that I didn't bring up? And as always, while the behavioral patterns we discuss may be problematic or extreme, we are ultimately talking about real people dealing with real struggles. And remember that we all view these situations through our own personal filters, which are shaped by our own experiences, traumas, and beliefs. All right, that's all the clucks I have left to give today. Stay golden, my little nuggets, and I'll catch you for chapter 2. Stay tuned.
Hey, 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 hey! I'm gonna go watch another video. Let's go!